In fact, I was texting Ben, right? I was texting you guys before the show, going over the show notes. And I was like, let's talk about the Jags and the Jets. And Ben was like, well, we got one sentence for the Jags. Trevor Lawrence is going there. Next. So we don't even have to talk about them. But the Jets, the New York Jets, were so close to getting probably the best, I mean, for my money, one of the best quarterback prospects I've seen coming out. They didn't get it done. They happened to win back-to-back games against two playoff contenders. They're locked into the number 2 pick. That's a lock. They have Sam Darnold on the roster, right? What are we doing? What is Joe Douglas doing with that number 2 pick? Is he trading out? Is he taking a quarterback, or are they going to stick it out with Darnold? And if they are, who do you go with at number 2? Cody, let's kick it off to you first.
Well, I think it's interesting. There was a point where we were talking about, I think we're all shocked when the Jets had beat the Rams, but the fact that Jacksonville fans they were in that stadium and Chicago was scoring and they were going crazy. I've never seen something like that. And I hope that for fans, that if your organization, the team that you're rooting for, I hope they never have to be in that position either, because it's really odd when they're up, they score 40-plus points and they are cheering like you just won the game. Obviously, they won the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes here. They're in control of that. But, I think there's a lot of questions about the New York Jets. And in a sense of what I'm looking at, we know Adam Gase is going to be out after this week. We know that they're going to be looking at bringing in a new head coach. And you have to figure out what is your game plan, right? Because you lose these games, you fall out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Do they look at a guy like Justin Fields? Do they look at Zach Wilson, 2 quarterbacks that are right now, or, I'd say that's up in the air as to who is QB2. A lot of analysts have them marked differently. Part of me believes, do they actually stick with Darnold? I feel like what Darnold has been able to do, I feel like Darnold is a good quarterback. What we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and what we even saw against the Las Vegas Raiders, he was dishing a diamond. So if it were up to me, I'd keep Darnold in New York.
Ben, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I feel like this happens every year, right? Like you have 10 weeks of knowing your team is not good. It needs a complete overhaul. And then they go and they mess around and they win these 2 games. And a lot of times that sparks hope, not just in the fan base, but sometimes in ownership. I think regardless, Gase is gone this season. But what are your thoughts on them keeping Darnold?
Well, Gase is gone. In fact, he's already been told he's gone. So that'll happen here in the next
news.
Well, not really. I mean, I don't know if that's breaking or not. I think everybody knew it was coming, but I'll tell you, he knows. As far as the rest of this goes, it depends on who the next coach is. It's not just about what they have on the roster right now. It's about the next coach. Right now, I think that next coach is going to be Don Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. I think that's the direction they're going to go.
Okay.
But we're not 100%. We're not 100% on that. There are some other options. Bill Cowher has actually mentioned an interest in this job. And there are other people that are interested in the job. Marvin Lewis being one. So there are people that they're interested in. That said, I think internally, Joe Douglas looks at Sam Darnold as a quality quarterback, and I think that they can get there with him. The question is, what do they have to surround him with? And if the next coach believes in that in the same way that he does. And then what are they missing? Are they even drafting it to? Do they trade back and attempt to acquire more picks? Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the most likely destination for them right now. People are talking about Penei Sewell, but I think what you do is you try to get one of those quarterback-thirsty teams to trade up for Zach Wilson, or you could say Fields, although he's not as highly rated by the people I've talked to as he is by the media.
Interesting.
Try to get them to trade up to 2, go backwards and multiply your picks to continue filling out this roster. There is talent on the Jets roster. Mekhi Becton is a very talented player. Darnold's a talented player. Denzel Mims looks like he's going to be a stud in this league. Herndon can play tight end. They have talent. They need to add more talent. That's the thing, and fix that offensive line. And I think that's really what it boils down to. So if it's me and I'm the Jets personally, I'm shopping that number 2 pick. I'm sticking with Darnold. We're moving backwards. I don't know for a fact what they're going to do. A lot of that will rest on the future coaching, but I will tell you there is internal belief in league circles that they will hang on to Darnold because there were teams lining up to pursue Sam Darnold.
I mean, it's fascinating to see how this has turned for the Jets. And it may end up being good, right? I mean, if they believe that Darnold is the guy, if they believe that he has the capability, he hasn't been mentally, we talked about him being mentally shot from playing behind or playing in this Jet situation. But if they think he can do it and he can handle it, sitting with that number 2 pick, you mentioned it, Ben, they could trade back and accumulate a significant amount of assets in a draft that seems to have a decent amount of skill players to add to the names that you already mentioned, a Chris Herndon, a Denzel Mims. Okay. What about the running back position for that team? That's something that I feel like they need to try to get figured out. And then something I've heard, I've been reading on social media, I'm not sure how I feel about it. You mentioned Penei Sewell, from the tackle from Oregon going to New York. What does that mean for Mekhi Becton if they make that pick? I've seen some conversation about picking him inside to guard. Yeah, is that something you would feel okay with doing?
Move him over to right tackle.
Okay. We got some comments I'm going to throw up on the screen here from some of our audience members. This is Patrick Quixote, by the way. I want to be very clear.
Oh, you got that right. Look at you.
I want to be very clear about who is sending this to us. But he says Denzel Mims is their wide receiver 1 going into 2021. He's an absolute stud. So maybe you don't have to worry about using, a Jamar Chase, that pick on a Jamar Chase or a Devontae Smith coming out of Alabama. You can look beyond the wide receiver position. Joe Douglas and the new head coach are hitching their wagons to Darnold. That is something that could be a possibility, Alejandro. I don't know that it's definite. But Joe Douglas it looks like he's going to end up being the decision maker. Would you say that, Ben, with Gase knowing that he's out, that he's not coming back? Does Joe Douglas accumulate that power that Gase seemed to have? Or are they going to continue with this organizational structure that they kind of both report to the owner? Neither of them report to each other.
Well, Joe still has the power, and they'll still have that weird reporting structure. But in the end, Gase and Douglas are friends. They've been friends for a long time, and Martindale's a friend of Douglas's as well. So both those guys would be, assuming Martindale's the pick. Again, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but that's what I've been told is that's their top target. I think that. I think that organizational structure will still be there, but you have two guys that have worked together before, and I think it'll be fine in that particular instance.
Cody, let me ask you this. This comes from Big Dogs 1318. Part of my favorite thing, by the way, is just reading some of these Twitter handles. I think they're awesome. Big Dogs 1318 wants to know what the Jets could get in a trade for Darnold, and would it make sense to make that trade if teams are in fact lining up? I'm gonna actually add a caveat to this question, Cody, and then Ben chime in too. What do you guys think is the most value? The trade value for that number 2 pick, or the trade value for Sam Darnold? And this assumes that you're not sure on Sam Darnold.
I personally believe that the best value comes from that draft pick, right? Because usually you will get a couple of those picks in this year's draft, and obviously you'll get some future draft picks as well. So you could eventually, if a team wanted to, they could trade next year's first to the Jets for that number 2 pick, and then the Jets could hold some leverage there depending on where things fall. I just don't think that you're going to get more value by offsetting Darnold. I mean, you're going to get a few picks, but at the same time, I think when you look at the broad picture of where the Jets are at, you want to at least go into 2021 with at least an idea who your quarterback is going to be, because if you trade Darnold, that means you have to invest in quarterback early. And right now, some of these guys, I mean, really outside of Trevor Lawrence, everybody else is going to be a project. And it's going to take time for those guys to get acclimated to the NFL game.
Yeah, and look, Ben mentioned 2 of the big names that are out there, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields, although Ben is confirming what I think our other draft insider, Tony Pauline, is hearing, is that people are starting to be a little bit higher on Zach Wilson than they are on Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields just because I know he works out with the QB collective. He works out with Shanahan, McVay, and those guys in the offseason. But if that's not translating to the field for some of those other scouts, it'll be interesting to see what the Jets do.